Alright guys, so got some cool stuff today. What I have here is finally, I picked up my diff. My diff's done. I have different gear ratios. I have a LSD in it now. And I have the flange on my drive shaft converted so that it actually fits the flange on the diff. So it's not much different to look at than it was before, but that is now a closed up diff, correct flange, and my two-piece drive shaft. Pretty excited to get this in the car. This is pretty much the final step on this thing. Just gotta do this and a little bit of stuff up front and get some drive shaft shop axles, and we are good to go. For the diff, what I have in it are some Ford 327 gears. So 327 seems like a really low ratio, but actually it's going to end up being, with my size wheel and the TKO and stuff like that, my second gear will run out at 60 something, like low 60s. Third gear will run out at around $110. Fourth will run out around 150. You're not supposed to hammer on the car in fifth gear because fifth gear is on the countershaft, so they tell you really only give it power on the first four. And then I think the 1-2 shift will happen at around like 35-40 miles an hour. So it should be a lot nicer to drive than having the 391 that was in it. And it should really help with the boost, having something to kind of pull against and keep it so it's kind of tame. And you're actually able to drive it, not have it always be revving up and super like in power band when you're just playing around town. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to begin with tightening down my engine mounts, tightening down my transmission mounts. Then I'm going to put the drive shaft in, and then after the drive shaft goes in, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift up the diff, put the diff into the subframe. So now I'll begin. Once again, got the Dange over there doing his thing, in and out. Ain't that right, Dange? Oh yeah, Danger. Oh, yes, buddy. Oh yeah. Oh, say hi to everyone. Oh yes. Oh yes, Dange. Here we go. Alright, so before I can actually tighten up the motor mounts, I need to pull one of the bolts out and replace it with this because I actually have the wrong bolt in there. And then I also need to put these washers on the tops, because as of right now there's no washers. I just kind of slid the bolts through. So I'm going to try and add those first. Alright, so I got that one in, which is awesome. It's all tightened down, good to go. Got my washers on there. I'll show you guys what the bomb view looks like so you can kind of see what I'm working with down there. I've reinforced the subframe. So my subframe actually has a flat plate on top of it, which I drilled out for the hole for the bolt to go through, and then I closed in the bottom of the subframe mount and just put a little hole in it. So it's kind of tricky because you have to fit an extension up in that little hole to get to the bolt. So this side might be tricky to get the wrong, I put the wrong bolt in. When I put the motor in, it's the wrong size length shaft. This side might be tricky to get out, which is why the toe straps have been left under the motor, because I thought I might have to jiggle the motor to actually loosen up the bolt. So we'll see if maybe I can just tap it through. I don't know. But let's go under the car. Alright, so that's what I'm working with under here. And what you have to do in order to actually get into or get onto the bolt is you slap through the hole in the arm, you go up through the hole in the bottom, and then you can lock onto the head of the bolt, which is tucked up in there. Yeah, so now I'm locked into it. And as you can see, riding on hockey pucks, you know, got a like a 4K short block dart block, and it's sitting on hockey pucks or whatever. So that's the bottom of my can oil pan. So you can, and right there, as you can see, it says dark. I have the Guibo delete on the steering shaft, hydraulic clutch. There's my bracket, TKO. Got Got the transmission cross member in. Still have to install that slave. Gotta put my dipstick in right there. I might just tackle that while I'm sitting under here, but we'll see. And that is the bolt in question that I need to hammer back out through the bracket. Alright, so I got the trans mount on, got my motor mounts on, I got the straps that are in the engine bay out. Now I just need to put that in the back, and I will have a drivetrain connected, which is awesome. It's a big step forward. So that is the next step in this process. So here's where I just got at the store. Just these spacers. I'm going to cut this in half and then just widen up this channel a little bit so that this slides in more freely. That way I can position this like back and forth relative to where it needs to be in the car, and then just weld it into place, and I will have my alignment correct. Alright, so here is my support now, and I have spacers where these are now cut down that they fit pretty much flush in there. So I'll be able to slide these back and forth to align everything in the back. Then I'll be able to weld these into the sleeve and fill in the gap around it. So, got the spacers, got my things all drilled out. Now I just need to make these holes larger to fit the actual diff, and it's good to go in. Diff is bolted up into the brace. I need to get a short bolt for the top, but now I can put this up in place, figure out where my slide is, put the drive shaft in, and figure out the pinion angle. That'll all be set. So that's what you'll see now, is me putting that differential up in the car. I use a jack it up, slide it forward, get the bolt in place, all that type of stuff. Alright, so what I have here is my 8/8 in its bracket, and it's all ready to lift up into the subframe. And in order to get this part in, I'm not going to do it like I did the actual subframe. I'm going to use a jack and jack the thing up into place, because now that weighs like 75 pounds. And even if you could lift it up into place, if you slip or anything, you don't want to drop that on yourself. So I'll use the jack it up in place. Once that's in place, I can put the drive shaft in, but it's easier to have that there so that you can kind of put the yoke of the drive shaft up onto something rather than just have it hanging. So that's what I'm going to do right now. Alright, so diff is in the car. I don't have the front bolts on it because I'll probably have to shim those. But the back brace is all hooked up, connected. Things sitting in there. Looks like the front is actually pretty straight up and down, and it won't need much adjustment. But All right, so for the most part, we now have 8.8 drive shaft into the TKO, into the 347 small block. So pretty cool. So that's that. Obviously some stuff's gonna have to get wiggled around and moved. But for all intents and purposes, the diff's in, drive shaft's in, bushings are on it, and I can more or less like measure up for my half shafts, do stuff like that, get the rear end for the car. Just as I've said, I gotta just button up a few things up here and then bolt together and drive. Thanks for watching. That's all I'm going to do for this video. Like, subscribe. You can catch me on Instagram at Lowristocrat. Later in this week, I will probably, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'll probably be doing some stuff with this. You'll probably see me do a few things with the wagon too. Not quite sure. Kind of depends on how the weather is. The worse the weather, the more I'll do on this. Nicer weather, I might tackle a project on a different car. So, anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the video, and that's all. Right, Dange? There's no right, buddy?
On Twitter.
Not too enthused. Just woke him up. See ya.